Hello everyone. I'm so happy today because we have an honorable guest with us. She is none other than the Honorable Mayor of Calicut, Dr. Beena Philip. Dr. Beena is an ELT professional. She's been a teacher all throughout. She's a lover of the English language. Naturally, we are so happy to have her. I also thank my colleague Srimati Amni Harish for having thought of bringing Honorable Mayor over for the second edition of Tribe. I would also like to thank the students of the Department of Functional English for making this occasion a one to remember, because I'm sure there would be lots of questions that the children would be asking our Honorable Mayor. So, all the best for the function.
Good evening all. I'm Swati K, third year BA Functional English student of St. Joseph College, Devagiri. The pandemic and vicissitudes leaves no stone unturned. An e-magazine was prepared by the Department of Language and Literature of our college that perfectly complements this event. Let me welcome you all to the interactive session of our e-magazine. Today, we have Dr. Beena Philip, the fourth female Honorable Mayor of Calicut Corporation and the former principal of Government Vocational High Secondary School, Narakavar. Ma'am, welcome to our show. We are blessed and elated to have your presence in our program. Welcome, ma'am.
We always say that life of great personalities is always full of great surprises and unexpected twists.
Yes.
And you were born at a different geography, that is Thrissur. Now
Yes.
the Honorable Mayor of Kozhikode. So what all were the great unexpected twists and surprises in your life?
There were many, my dear. There were many unexpected twists and turns in my life. Number one is from a typical village girl, I came to one of the corporations in Kerala, that is Kozhikode, and that too in the heart of the city, Malabar Christian College, where I was taught by your Sir Prem Kumar's father, Augustus sir. And that was a one surprise and turn. And then I had to join a women's college after a co-education, because I studied in a convent and I found it is comfortable to join that's another turn in my life. Because from there, I started a kind of, what I might say, academic life, acting. Of course, I had acting experience and I became the university best actress while I was in Christian College. But after that, I stopped it. But coming to Providence College, I started all my activities again. And I entered into student politics while I was in Malabar Christian College. I could establish a unit of SFI. I must be very frank with you. In Providence College, that was a turn. But after that, what happened is, that was another twist. Because of all these activities in the third year, I got less marks. So I couldn't join MBBS. Then I selected teaching as my career. That was a turning point in my life. My activities, extra activities in the college during my third year actually made me a teacher. Otherwise, in first year and second year, I had 82% marks. And then when it came to third year, my aggregate became 67. Those days, 73.6 or something was the marks to get into MBBS. So that's another turn. And then I never thought that I would be settling in city. I always wanted to be a teacher in the villages. I wanted to marry a person who was basically oriented. I mean, his workplace, his family, everything should be rooted in a village. And that again, I didn't do. I happened to love a person who was in the middle of the city, and who was not my classmate, but my college mate in Malabar Christian College. Some way he was related to my auntie's family. I married him. And instead of going back again to a village, I joined the Sri Gujarati Vidyalaya and English medium school after my B.Ed. And then again, I worked only in the city of Kozhikode. You just see, that was all unexpected. And then another unexpected thing was, I wanted to take a PG, which I thought I would take from late MP Sridharan. who was a veteran in the field of teaching history. In history, we can say, not only teaching. I wanted to join as a history teacher to take a private degree in MA. And then another person, that is Paul Livingston Peter, he advised me, Bina, what is history? It's only the story of the past. But what is literature? It is reflection of life. You are a philosopher as far as I know you. So take literature. That was another turning point in my life. So, and then I thought, who was taking me, ready to take me as a private candidate for MA English? Fortunately, it was my late professor, R. Ramachandran, who is a guru for many of the Kozhikode people when he was living, and even after his death, people consider him as the number one guru of their lives, not only in the subject, but in their lives. That was another turning point. It was Professor R. Ramachandran's wish that I would take a PhD. Only because of his wish, I took a PhD. So I had a PhD, and by the time he was no more, so I dedicated my PhD to serve to my teacher. That's another turning point. And then I joined LLB evening, and I was posted into higher secondary. No, I went to learn. I mean, after taking my MA, I thought that I had to learn, I had to teach English. Then I was given English of class 8. I was a science teacher. And in class 8, I had a doubt about noun clause. Since you are all English students, you know. And nobody could clarify my doubts in teaching a noun clause. So I heard of an institute in Bangalore where teachers of English will be given training. I joined there and I became the topper, you know that. That was because of my reading and my listening to English. Those days, in the 80s, we had the cable TV. So I used to watch this cable TV just to know the culture of the very good English topper of Regional Institute of English, Bangalore. And that again was another turning point. I became a teacher trainer, or rather a teacher tutor, an ELT, you know that, English language teaching tutor at a district center for English. In fact, I was the person, it was an ELT center before, and then I went to CFL, now it is EFLU, for a 3-month training to make the ELT center a district center of English, to upgrade it. But when I upgraded it, I had to join higher secondary. I joined high secondary. I could have come back to district center, but if I had come, my role model, my senior, who was the acting chief tutor, would step down. So I didn't want that. So I didn't join district center again. I continued in high secondary. I became a principal. And then when I was about to take voluntary retirement to join some of the leading publishing organizations in India, our MLA wanted me to go to Nadakav. Thus, I got involved in the PRISM project. From the very induction of the idea, I've been with him. And then again, I came to Nadakav school, and the rest you know. It is part of history. And these are all twists and turns in my official life or career. And in my personal life, again, I don't think that is relevant for me to reveal all those twists and turns in my life, personal life. This is about my academic career. After retirement, I thought I would join the private sector. And then I was invited to become the principal of a college. But then my busy schedule, spending more time in the school, especially Nadakav and Azhchavatam, my family had to sacrifice a lot. And then I thought I had a guilty conscience. So I thought I wouldn't work again. I went to help my daughter, which had, she had a problem because I couldn't pay attention to her. So I became a slave of my daughter's family, in fact. And in between, in a year, I did nearly 60 to 65 workshops, 6 days. I could work Oxford University Press. I was a resource person traveling all over India, addressing teachers mainly, students sometimes, and parents of Kerala, because I could speak to them in their mother tongue, to parents. That's what I did for 7 years. Then the corona came. And even before that, I thought that I would stop everything and lead a normal, peaceful life, because my children were away. Both of them were in the States. I thought I would have a very simple life. fate, then you know the fate. That's what has happened in my so many twists and turns.
Hi, ma'am. I
Hello,
am Risa
Riza.
Pandey,
Yes,
third B English literature student. So,
yes,
my question is COVID has restricted education to merely online classes.
yes,
While older students can manage the sudden change, it's a challenge for the younger ones. And
yes,
there are definitely some things to be done for them. As a
yes.
teacher, rather than a mayor, what is your take on this?
Um, I should rather tell you, I just don't appreciate this at all. But we are all helpless. That's why we had to meet people virtually. We don't feel their, that their real self. We don't, when you look at a person, looking at a face that is seen on a screen is different from looking at a face when you meet a person physically. So that change, I don't think my age people can adjust with. But you, the youngsters, of course, you will very quickly, fastly will adjust with this kind of meetings, Google meetings and audio meeting and video meeting and all. Uh, but then, man means woman too, or human beings are all, social beings. So our social life is limited these days. But since we have hope for a better tomorrow, that's what we are all working for, especially as a mayor. We're always thinking of how we can control COVID. What else can we do to control COVID? So hope we will also have a nice getting together, not virtually, but really. That's what I feel. You are losing your real social life. That's what I feel. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
My question is, you may have been to many places in
Yes.
and out of India. So, what are some of the changes or developments you've seen there which you wish to implement here?
If you ask me that, I would rather say, and your professor knows it better. People like we who are always update their knowledge, we want certain changes in our academic field, which is very, very difficult in India. Because though we have all academicians, professors, and teachers are doing research into the modern methodology, modern ways of learning, very difficult to convince the authorities about the need of that change. I will quote an example. I visited Sharjah, as you said, the medical university. There I met the vice chancellor of the university, Dr. Hosam Hamdi, an Egyptian. I was given 20 minutes to meet him, but we talked more than 2.5 hours. So because I learned as discovery method of learning, he practiced it in the medical college. He took me to the different rooms, where in each room 9 MBBS students were sitting with their laptops in front of them. So they pose a question, coming again to another methodology. So posing a question by a doctor, they have to find out the answer by the end of the week. For that, the rest of the professors who handle the different subjects in medicine, one way or the other, they would address that particular question given to that particular group. But students have to grab those points into their problem. They will refer to, they will they will skim through, and they will browse through, and thereby, and they interview people. They really go to the patients who suffer, and then they will find a solution, discovering the solution, discovering the problems and finding the solutions. So what we preach, they practice. Do we have that freedom to inculcate such things in our curriculum? Though we say it in the curriculum framework, in actual teaching, we can't practice it. Our parents expect us to teach only to get higher marks. Our higher authority always expect us to get 100% results. That's for the academic side. They forget the life of the learner. Education is for life. So we are equipping the children. Other countries are equipping their children to face life, and through their academic activities, they learn to solve their life problems. That in our country we can't practice. That is what's made me, so painful for me as a teacher. And I visited America. There again, the even from the KG, the way they prepare the children, they will never say bad about a child. The kind of awards that they give, fairness award. You see, kindness, fairness, truthfulness, all these kind of quality, human values and qualities are being assessed and given awards for that. Here, what do we do? A grade or full A plus in maths or 100%. That's the only thing that we project. And finally, in life, what does the SSLC book or the +2 set mark sheet or your rank do in your life? So that is what is really bothering me.
Ma'am.
So, ma'am, the question is, in this stereotypical society, if you are concerned about what others really think, does that really matter?
What's others? Concern.
If you are concerned about what others think,
Yeah,
so
that is true.
does it really matter?
We are not true to ourselves. Am I right?
Yeah.
We are not true to ourselves. We always think, oh, what will they think of me? What will my parents think? What will my brothers think? Or what will my neighbors think? We never think of ourselves. We are not honest. Basically, we are not honest. I mean, you can't afford to be 100% honest in everything, but still, you can be 80% honest. That is not allowed in our society. And even the educational institutions, they don't promote honesty or that true individualities of the children to be promoted, actually, to be developed, actually. They don't promote that. I've seen that. Girls who are very dynamic, who are very enthusiastic, and who are very optimistic, when they come to the higher secondary, some of the teachers cannot tolerate it. They start snubbing them. And within 6 or 7 months, I could see the gloomy air, about the girl or the boy who was very smart in the first week of their joining the school.
Yeah.
So that way, we kill the personalities of our children, or rather the students. We are famous for that.
Okay, ma'am. My question is that.
Yes.
My question is that often the youth of India appears to have a very less power in choosing a career they are passionate about. So are there ever times when limiting young people's choices or removing their choices actually empowers them?
That's a good question. One thing, we don't have much options. For example, I faced a lot of financial problems at one stage of my life. I advised my son, who was doing engineering, to do a part-time job. I approached 2-3 people to give him a part-time job. People who knew me wondered. They were asking me, teacher, we can't give you a job for your son. We can give a job for somebody else, but not to your son. You understood? So the society never allows you to give freedom for your own children. If I give freedom for my own children, my in-laws, my relatives will start criticizing me. And they would dare to warn my children, even, your mother is a fool. So that's painful, right? When I can foresee the future of my children, if I give them freedom, my relatives or friends would say, Beena, don't do that. You have to send your child to an English medium school, not to a Malayalam medium school. So I allowed my children, both of them, to join Malayalam medium in the beginning because there was a nearby school. But finally, I had to take them to an English medium because children themselves doubted me. And my daughter asked me, Amma, you wanted more time to read. That is why you are sending me into Malayalam medium school. Just see, that's the kind of injection, that's the kind of approach our children develop against me if I would allow them freedom. And they also prefer the usual way of joining, firstly for a doctor, then for an engineer, and then for somebody like. So what else can a mother do? So this is one side. Another side is, as you told, fathers and mothers, they always tell you, you have to become this. That is my dream. They never allow the dream of the individual. They always want their dreams to be imposed upon the children. That's another side. Another section, who are least bothered, who do not know what their real capability or taste is, and they are in a loss. No education institution direct the students based on their talents and capability. That's happening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, my question is, plastic waste is a major problem in Kerala,
Yeah.
and our neighboring states are solving this problem in many ways. As an authority, have you found any ways to address this?
Yes, that's a very good, socially relevant. Presently, it's a currently it's bothering all of us. As you said, in other states, their geographical, their terrain, their climatic conditions are different, and their population is also less than. Density of population is less than that we have in Kerala. And plastic is a threat for the whole world, not only for Kerala. But they are still trying different means and ways to solve the problem by making it into reconditioned, or they recycle it to become some productive, useful products. Like here again in Kozhikode, we have started this plastic processing unit in West Hill. There, the plastic waste are sorted into useful ones and which can be rejects. That part can be rejected. So these rejects are taken to the different states to process it into something which can be mixed with the tar or something. Those useful plastic is being, it's been made into shreds and then made into pellets and being exported, or rather being taken into the factories in different states. We are not using in our own state. That's one thing. So plastic waste still is a threat. We are trying our level best to solve it. And there is another phenomenon in Kozhikode beach, that is 2 or 3 times in a year, tons and tons of plastic. You wouldn't believe it will come to the shores of the sea, of the coast. So it is a Herculean task for us to remove all the plastic and send it to the processing places. And that is, we hope that within 2 days, 2 years, we will be able to sort out the problem of plastic by converting it into useful products. The work is going on, and the plans are, they are also being taken. And our MLA, that is our Riaz, has become a minister. We have 3 ministers in the corporation, and the mayor of corporation for 10 years, Thottappil Ravindran, is another MLA. So with these 4 people, definitely I think that we will be solving the problem of plastic and other waste in the coming 1 or 2 years.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, this is a question regarding the health sector.
Yep.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah. Kozhikode Medical College, being the largest of our state, and has a prominent role in our healthcare sector.
Yes.
And for a time period, we witnessed a very alarming spike in the COVID cases, like the recent months.
Yeah.
So, and you are also elected directly into the pandemic situation.
Yes.
And now with the efficient and strict control from the government, it come to an almost stable condition.
Yes,
so,
definitely.
So what all were the challenges you faced, ma'am?
You faced during COVID?
Are
you when you ask me, condition? I can tell you something. Kozhikode people are really good. They are really good people. But I admit that there is an anarchist in every Kozhikode person. For example, myself, I came to Kozhikode at an age of 15. There is an anarchist sleeping inside me. I found it when I went to the States and to the Gulf countries, because there everything is in order. Everywhere you should follow some rules. So that typical Kozhikodan anarchist in me couldn't tolerate those restrictions. So I was wondering, as a teacher, I thought I was a strict disciplinarian. But when I come to this country, I just don't like their restrictions in my life. Typical Kozhikode thinking, typical Kozhikode attitude. When you heard that there is tsunami on the beach, you take your scooter and bikes and then run to the beach, without thinking of the repercussions of it. When you have COVID everywhere, you just don't mind it at all. Oh, anyway, we'll get COVID. Why not? The earlier is the better. That is what we Kozhikodans think. Oh, it's very difficult to convince people. I have experienced it. But still, very slowly, a kind of an emotional blackmail I do sometimes, pleading to them. If you don't think of yourself, please think of others. It not only affects you, but it affects others. It affects the most dear ones. Because of you, your dear ones suffer. Because of you, your neighborhood, relatives, and the whole place suffer. So that kind of an emotional blackmailing I'm doing, because otherwise the Kozhikode people are not, they are not that kind of obedient citizens. So the tough task for me in this COVID period is to convince them about the need to follow these restrictions or these guidelines that the health authorities, as you said, the medical college doctors, they all put forward. So I think with the help of you people, we all could make people understand the need of the hour and how they should act to prevent COVID further.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Ma'am, Calicut is one of the cities of Kerala well known for tourist attraction,
Yes.
but there are no enough public toilets or nursing rooms, etc. So, have you thought about bringing a change into all these?
My goodness. The first thing I thought about was the sufficient toilets for men and women both. We have spotted places, but the problem is if we make a toilet, the problem of the septic tank is really troublesome, because most of the areas are wet. During the rainy season, these septic tanks will be full, and then you can't use the toilets anymore. Rainy season is the season where we all want to go to the toilet very frequently, right? So that's one thing. In spite of it, we are researching how can we fix temporary tanks and then evacuate it, or emptying these temporary tanks recurringly, so that there won't be any problem of those tanks getting flooded. That's what we are thinking. We have the plan. If the COVID has not come with this fierceness as its second phase, the first thing I would have done is making more toilets. And another thing, as I told you in the beginning about the culture of the Kozhikode people, not all of them, but very few of them. If you make a good toilet with all modern facilities, spending lakhs of rupees, within a month or 2 months, what you see is people making bringing big boulders, granite boulders, and then breaking those closets. What else can you do then? You don't feel like making it again or repairing it again if it is being repeated. So awareness comes surveillance. So for that surveillance, we are not getting enough people. They can be the conductors of such toilets. They can collect money, pay and use toilets. They can take that amount home, but people are not willing. So that is to be changed. And it is there in my mind. The first thing that I thought I could do was to give as many toilets in different parts of the city where people gather. The second thing was making a lorry stand. And of course, the third thing is, as you all know, all the primary facilities that we all need, essential facilities that we need, like water, drinking water, light, and roads. But unfortunately, that again, or fortunately, we have 85 to 90% we have covered: water problem, light problem, and transport problems. And the rest again, we have to think of, your needs never stop. So now we are thinking of how to make the drains permanently used and how to fix the water pipes through ducts so that it won't cause any kind of blockage in the drains. It won't cause any type of breaking when the lorries go over the road. And that is our second phase. So PWD and the corporation together are planning that. KCB, Water Authority, BSNL, they do lay their cables. So together, all these departments together, we have charted out an action plan, and we will start doing it after the rains.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, my next question is, as a newly appointed person, you must be having a lot of plans you wish to implement. Which are the most important ones?
We speak something and we do something exactly opposite to what we speak. So that character of our people should be changed. That is one vision that I have in my mind. And the rest you all know, as I told you earlier, sufficient open spaces for people to come and enjoy. People think of the commercial utility of Mananjara, but I told them, more than the commercial utility, we need open space for children to come and walk and fall and rise again and then walk. We don't have open spaces. That we have to provide. Open spaces and parks in between, well maintained. Even if allowing a cafeteria in one corner of a park, if that person maintains the park very well, we will welcome it. So that way, without making it a commercial gaining thing, it should be a kind of a socially useful kind of commercial gaining. And so at the same time, that should be socially useful also. That kind of an agreement or a kind of partnership that I expect in Kozhikode. And there are very many good people in Kozhikode who extend their hands for any kind of building something or funding something or organizing and conducting. We have good people in Kozhikode. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, a teacher, principal, now the respected mayor, all of it filled with great eminence, challenges, and responsibilities. How do you see the transformation?
Oh my goodness. I never liked the principalship. I always loved teaching. Teaching is a passion for me. Even now, when the press people or some of the old councillors, when they come, they say, even after becoming a mayor, you are still a teacher. A teacher in you has never, died. In a way, I'm happy that I am still a teacher. I have still a teacher's attitude. That's why, that might be one of the reasons why I could make such a very cooperative air in the councils. So that transition, though apparently, or for people, though I have changed my designation, I have not changed much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. My question is that characteristics like intelligence, success, and kindness often stands as remarks that makes a woman feel empowered. And respondents often enjoy empowering women as their role models. According to you, what truly makes a woman feel empowered, ma'am?
Could you repeat the last part of your question? Because of me?
According to you, what truly what truly makes a woman empowered?
Oh my goodness, that's a very difficult question to answer. One thing I can tell you, if you have to be empowered, you should have the mental strength, right? That's the first thing that you need. Though Karl Marx said economical independence is needed more than any other independence. But I would rather say economical independence is there, of course, but unless you have the psychological independence or psychological power, strength, even if you have enough money, you wouldn't be an empowered woman. Our aunts, our own mother, or our grandmothers, highly empowered women. It is not because of their economic independence, not because of their reading or knowledge. Knowledge is there, of course, not reading or academic knowledge is not there. They have life, the knowledge about life. So experience is necessary, knowledge is necessary, and freedom is necessary for a woman to become highly empowered. Even now, of course, there are exceptions. There are rebel kind of girls who wanted to be on their own way, who succeeded in their life and reached to high positions. And there are exceptions, but mainly we need some sort of a knowledge in life, experience in life, and your support also. The way you are brought up in your family.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am,
So,
being a bibliophile
my-
and a voracious reader,
Huh.
which are the books that deeply influenced you?
the book that
Deeply influenced you?
inspired me
Yes, ma'am, you can say that.
deeply
Influenced you?
influenced me. Oh my goodness, if you ask that question, it's very difficult to answer. There are many books, I should rather say. I used to read all kind of that, trash literature in terms of our literary people. But I wouldn't call them trash because that helped me a lot to form my personality, to form some sort of an attitude towards world and life in the beginning years. Then when I turned to serious reading, I didn't know that many people couldn't enjoy Sherlock Holmes. So I started reading English novels during my my B.Ed and my teaching I told you in Gujarati school, I used to teach in Gujarati school. I started my career in Gujarati school. Then I got a lot of time and I started reading English novels very seriously. So many of the readers, like now I don't remember the names at all because I don't read these days. Novels on them I don't read anymore. But then, oh, those names are not coming to my mind. Really sorry, I can't remember because I don't read anymore. Or those books are with me, still I don't remember the names. That is what age is doing to you. But still, I read a lot of books. And one rank holder, MA Literature rank holder, Bhavana Kollywood, when he came and visited my house, she was telling me even her guide might not have read as many books as I read. So that's what she said. So, I mean, when you read Toni Morrison, those who are writing a dissertation on Toni Morrison couldn't see many of the recurring images that I saw with my single reading. So I could assimilate a book that I read. I mean, those who were writing in 50s and 60s, could you just name out a few of the writers, novelists?
Sidney Sheldon.
Sheldon, of course. Sidney Sheldon, yeah.
Jeffrey Archer.
Jeffrey Archer, definitely, Jeffrey Archer, yes. First Among Equals, right? He was an MP in the parliament. Yeah, I've read.
Arthur Haley. Airport.
Arthur Haley, yes, Arthur Haley. Hotel and Airport and Evening News. That was Arthur Haley's novels. And the novels I have read. It was all a heavy reading. You can't simply say it is light reading. Unless you concentrate, you won't understand the whole theme of it. When you read Ramachandran, who's his remember that Dr. Ramayandran, Phantoms in the Brain. That's all heavy reading. Unless you refer to the index, you wouldn't understand. Otherwise, you should have been a postgraduate in zoology. Those books I used to read, taking the pains and strains, I used to read them. So those were all books that helped me a lot. It's not that influenced me a lot. All those books influenced me in one way or the other. Maybe I know, maybe I do not know. Knowingly or unknowingly, my reading those books helped me a lot, forming my personality, my outlook to life. But I don't know whether you have noticed that the craft, Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eyes, no, sir?
Yeah,
Where that
those days, yes.
character, I forgot her name. Oh my goodness, I forgot her name. That small black girl who was raped by her father. Pecola was her name, right? Yeah, in Pecola. When I started reading that book, I thought somewhere it was similar to Arundhati Roy's God of Small Things, the craft of writing. I couldn't convince people that there is a similarity, but there is. Otherwise, it wouldn't have struck me. When I started reading Toni Morrison, I just was thinking, where did I read this? And then I thought it is Arundhati Roy. So, like, those books, you should have a kind of, I don't know what you call it, Premda sir. It should be a kind of vibe in you that makes you understand the similarities between these two women writers. So that way, all those books help me at all. Roy and all, I don't know the way it has influenced me, or rather, I pitied those characters. I fully understand those characters, whereas many of the readers from Malabar couldn't understand, but I did understand. That's what, your own experience, your background all helps you assimilate a book in the right sense.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Right now, your biggest dream project at this moment?
Now, my dream project is to start a bud school, for physically and mentally challenged students, youngsters, to start a bud school where we have got a fund from the MLA Dr. Munir, 75 lakhs, and we have a property, a house and 26 cents land in Mailambadi, and there we have a dream project to start a place for the old people to come and relax and sip a coffee. And at the same time, they are mingling, these old people mingling with this kind of differently challenged or able students. That is right now my dream. First stand for those lorries to come to our city carrying all our edible things, right? All commodities are being transported to Kerala through these lorries. So they should have a decent living. Every lorry driver, the cleaner, they should all have a dormitory kind of thing where they can have an ATM, where they can withdraw money or they can, credit money, and they should have a petrol bunk. They should have 2 or 3 shops selling the whatever things they need urgently, like that kind of a thing. A hub, actually a station, a transport station, meeting all the needs of these lorry people. That dream is giving opportunity for the Kozhikode men and women to work in Kozhikode itself. That's my long-term dream. I'm waiting for a chance. I think our cyber park, our government park and ULCC, cyber parks, they all will have more investors. For that, they need some sort of a nightlife without interrupting with our own culture. How we can produce that kind of nightlife for those people who enjoy it, but IT people, they're not really human beings, They have some special interest because when we sleep, they work. When we work, they sleep. So that kind of people, definitely they need some side. In our language, it is night is another long-term plan for me, where people won't go to the Gulf countries and other places to work. We'll have Kozhikode people working in Kozhikode itself. That's a long-term dream for me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes?
Ma'am, this can be the last question.
Yeah, this would be the last question, sir. Please.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, if you could change one thing in our city, what would it be and why?
Change the city
Yes, ma'am.
to make it clean and beautiful. What else? Clean and beautiful and safe, of course, for women. Safe, clean, beautiful, and safe. That's my dream.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall I say bye to all?
Yeah. Thank you. And
Okay.
it was excellent.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you agree. Okay. Amini, so thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Enjoyed
very much.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Okay, Mata.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
A vote of thanks.
Before doing my formal vote of thanks, I have to say that personally, I felt like when I spoke to Beena ma'am, where like talking to a familiar teacher, her attitude was like that. So we all were comfortable with her. So I thank Beena ma'am personally for that. Then let me go to the official one. So I thank our chief guest, Honorable Mayor of Kozhikode, Srimati Beena Philip, for lending her insights and sharing her experience. Most important of all, sharing her time for us. Thank you, ma'am. Then I thank head of our department, Dr. Premanand Debbi, our mentor, for guiding us and providing us this great opportunity, even during this pandemic situation. We should give a special thanks because it's like we never knew this would happen. So if we wish, things can happen. Then I thank Srimati Amani Harish, the coordinator and teacher, for providing us with all the necessary instruction and for ensuring our efficient performance and participation. Then lastly, I thank all our faculty and friends of the Department of Language and Literature for their support, well wishes, and cooperation. Thank you.